Well, um, I know this is our second time speaking today, or third, actually, if you listen to uh, yesterday's episode or today's episode as well. But Blue Chip Billy back at it again, and the future is so bright in Gainesville. I'll tell you that. Blue Chip Billy Napier has done it again and added yet another blue chip prospect, this time in the form of Dijon Johnson, who has now officially, finally committed to the University of Florida. He, of course, used to be committed to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Sorry, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Don't worry, I know that I know the ego is very, very fragile now. So I get that. Don't worry, Ohio State. But however, Billy Napier has completed the flip that started late or early in the summer when Billy Napier got Dijon Johnson down to campus for Friday Night Lights, the barbecue, and Dijon Johnson decommitted from Ohio State. And I mean, took a visit July 30th, took a visit September 10th, took a visit October 13th is now today committing. And Dijon Johnson will be in Gainesville for Florida versus LSU, along with Bryce Thornton, who also committed to the University of Florida today, along with Cormani McClain, who hasn't committed yet, but we could be happy about the possibility, right? I do know that a lot of people are like, oh, Florida Gators, Cormani McClain, it's going to happen now. Like, there's hype. Let's settle down. I'm not saying it won't happen. I don't think it will happen, though. As much as we love Cormani McClain and as excited as we are, I don't think that that's a commitment that happens today, just because it's incredibly difficult to make happen and to kind of complete this flip, we'll say, which is also one of those things where do you consider it a flip or do you not consider it a flip? Because yes, he went from Ohio State to Florida, but it took like almost 3 months to complete the flip. And then it determines, or that depends on, I guess, do you consider it a flip when they decommit and then eventually commit, or do you consider it a flip when it's decommit, commit, right in one? Either way, I'm counting this as a flip. I'm counting this as a giant win for the Florida Gators, who let's take this in for a second now, because what, 4 months ago, I was on vacation and my phone was blowing up with Florida Gators fans who I was just seeing their tweets, coming after Billy Napier and this coaching staff and how they weren't going to be able to get it done. And then Billy Napier had to put out an open letter before coaching his first game in Gainesville because recruiting from the outside was just, the sky was falling for Florida. That's how it was. Now you fast forward a couple of months and Florida's got 22 commits. They gained 2 commits today. Billy's got this dope nickname of Blue Chip Billy because he's got 17 4-star commits. No 5 stars yet, but 17 4-star commits here. Dijon Johnson, the most recent one, the third highest ranked commit for the 2023 recruiting class for the Florida Gators football team. Third. And I mean, I'd be happy if it ended now. I'll say that. Considering the first year, this being his first class, I'd be happy with what is now the number 8 ranked class in the country. Billy Napier, the guy that had to put out an open letter because recruiting wasn't working early on, and had to put out an open letter because Florida Gators fans were calling for his head before he ever even coached a football game in the SEC, now has the number 8 ranked class for the University of Florida. And I believe it's 7 defensive backs now. That's kind of really freaking good. That's a lot of commits for the Florida Gators now. And Dijon Johnson is probably one of the biggest commit. Dijon Johnson is such a big commit for the Florida Gators that three times, people who cover the University of Florida and the Florida Gators football program tweeted out announcements that Dijon Johnson was committing to the Florida Gators. 3 times they did it. They did it the night that he decommitted from Ohio State. Someone jumped the gun and said, Dijon Johnson committing. There was another time shortly after that. And then September 1st, official offers go out. And my goodness, right? September 1st? Yeah, September 1st, official offers go out. And you would think that people would read the tweet, but Dijon Johnson tweeted that he got an offer from Florida. And again, Florida Gators media tweeted, Dijon Johnson committed, but now it is finally true. It is real. Dijon Johnson has committed. He is a Florida Gator. Finally, I mean, this seemed like such a slam dunk for the Florida Gators because he decommitted from Ohio State, took a visit to Florida. He then took more visits to Florida, never took a visit anywhere else. They said that, the Final Four were Florida, Ohio State, Miami, and USC, as in California. But Florida won. Florida was kind of the favorite once he decommitted. It was just Florida or maybe returning to Ohio State. And as much as Dijon Johnson tried keeping this kind of low key and quiet, we all kind of sensed what it was. But now Florida did something very important now with this. Florida, of course, going into the day, Florida was the 12th ranked recruiting class right behind Penn State. After the Bryce Thornton commitment, Florida jumped Penn State there. And then Florida's number 11. And we're thinking, Florida just that close to punching into the top 10. And there's one more commitment scheduled for today. And people got excited, and people, me, did the math. And we were like, well, what would Florida be ranked if Dijon Johnson commits? And their rating would be 266.57. And I want you to know that puts Florida now, 267.85 now. Florida ahead of now the not top 10 Miami Hurricanes. Have fun at number 11, losers. Now the number 10 Tennessee Volunteers, who all summer it was, the Vols recruiting class, the Vols recruiting class, the Vols recruiting class. Where you at now? I'm just saying that one. And then now Florida's past the Clemson Tigers. And there's a sizable gap between now the number 8 recruiting class of the Florida Gators and the number 7 recruiting class of the LSU Tigers. There's a solid gap there. I'm not going to pretend. LSU's got 283.46 as their rating. Florida, 267.85. So there's a solid gap there. There's a few names that the Florida Gators are looking at that could kind of help them there, and LSU could get decommits, so we'll see. Who's to say? But what we can say is that the Florida Gators have done it again. The Florida Gators, since mid-late June, we'll say, have been on fire. Yeah, there was a month-ish of quiet, but Florida Gators right back into it. Billy Napier has the number 8 class in the country right now. If you want to say anything in the chat, go ahead, say it in the chat. We're going to be here for maybe 5 more minutes, and we'll engage with the chat. We'll talk about it. We'll get into it. We'll have some fun because Billy did it again. But first, a quick word from BetOnline, because the Florida Gators are currently 2.5-point favorites over the LSU Tigers this Saturday. And if you've been listening to the show, you know that, well, Florida Gators do not tend to cover when they're favored. Whether they lose or win is different, but they don't tend to cover when they're favored. I think that changes this week. I think the Florida Gators beat LSU, and if it's a game that if I'm like, well, if they're going to win this game, if it's a 2.5-point spread, I'm just going to take the spread because what are the odds they win by 1 or 2, right? Can't wait for them to win by exactly 1 or 2. That's going to be fantastic for me. But I'm going to make that money with BetOnline because BetOnline has everything, not just football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey, tennis, table tennis, darts, pool. You could bet on reality shows, award shows. You could bet on politics. You could bet on global economy. You could bet on if aliens are going to invade and who they'll invade. So do that if you want to. Check out BetOnline. It's where the game starts. And I see Let's Go BCB, which is, of course, hold on, where is it? Where are they? Let's go. Blue Chip Billy, because that's what it is. I'm telling you now, if you think I'm this obnoxious for a commit, y'all don't even know when Florida's going to be back good again as a program in general. It's going to be obnoxious. I'm letting you know that. Stephen McDaniel said, "Go Gators, amazing channel." Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that. Appreciate you tuning in. And Bart said, "Scared money don't make money." It doesn't. It doesn't. Scared money don't make money. But Blue Chip Billy makes moves and makes money. That's what Blue Chip Billy does. It's all about scared money don't make money. It's all about being great and being the best program you can be. And that's exactly what Billy Napier and his coaching staff have put out for. This is also a just in general, a monumental day in Florida Gators recruiting. Bryce Thornton, depending on where you look, 3-star safety, 4-star safety. Here's the thing though. He had offers from it was Alabama. Florida beat Alabama for Bryce Thornton. So it was Alabama. It was Georgia. It was Texas. It was LSU. It was Notre Dame. It was West Virginia. It was all these big schools, all these Power 5 programs, and a lot of SEC programs. Do you really think he's just a 3-star talent or a 4-star talent? Do you think that many SEC programs are in on a 3-star safety? That talent, a 3-star safety? No, this is a kid who deserves to be ranked higher. He will be ranked higher. Hopefully. We know how it goes when kids commit to Florida. But he will likely be ranked higher when it's all said and done. Dijon Johnson just made life a bit easier because even now, Florida's still pursuing Cormani McClain. Don't get that twisted. Other schools might start pursuing him heavier than they were with Dijon off the table now and Cormani being there. But Cormani is still the guy that Florida's pursuing. Cormani, I mean, I can't even begin to express how good this kid is and how valuable he'll be to any recruiting class that does get him. But now if Florida doesn't get him, it kind of softens that blow a little bit. It still sucks. Don't get me wrong. It would still suck if Florida doesn't get Cormani McClain. But Dijon Johnson, that kind of softens the blow now that you have at least that person that you can rely on as a marquee elite cornerback, which by the way, now, like Florida Gators, they've got a lot of commits. 3 of their top 5 are DBs. 2 of their top 5 are DBs. 2 of their top 5 are wide receivers, and then there's a D lineman at the top in Kelby Collins. So, which by the way, Florida beat Bama for. So Florida's been winning battles. And I mean, most of you that are here probably have listened at some point with John Garcia, who's Sports Illustrated's director of football recruiting. He's Locked On's recruiting insider. He joins the show all the time. He openly talks about how if you want to compete in the SEC, you've got to go at least be finalists against Alabama and Georgia and all these other big programs, but you've got to win some. Billy Napier's won quite a few of these early on in his tenure in Gainesville. Like Billy Napier has now beat Nick Saban twice, which by the way is borderline elder abuse if we're going to talk about stuff and people in lockers. He's beat Miami multiple times. He's also lost to Miami multiple times. That is true. But they're putting in work. Like Billy Napier and this coaching staff are putting it knees to chest in recruiting, and it's paying dividends right now. It's been fantastic. we're going to wrap up here now. But thank you all so much for tuning in, all 61 of you, 62 of you at the time that I'm recording this live. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll be going live every time that I'm home and there's a commit, or every time I'm home and Florida games end. So we'll be going live there, including the LSU game this Saturday. But I mean, this is just, thank you so much. Locked On Gators has grown a ton recently. Appreciate you. Check out the Locked On Gators Discord, which you can get in the description below. Monday through Saturday, every day, 3 a.m. audio comes out, 8 a.m. YouTube video premieres. So thank you so much. Go Gators, and hope you have a great night. Unless there's a surprise commit, I think we're done for the night. But thank you so much. Go Gators. Scared money don't make money.